There's a particular kind of tool you reach for when you're tired, something that promises to take the repetitive part off your hands. The email template, the scheduling app, the shortcut that finally automates the small task you've done 1,000 times. And in the moment you set it up, there's a quiet relief, a sense that you've bought yourself back a piece of your own time. But then, slowly something shifts. The tool that was supposed to free you starts shaping you. You begin writing in the rhythms it accepts. You start scheduling your day around its categories. The shortcut becomes the standard, and the standard becomes the expectation, and the expectation becomes the new floor of what you owe. You wanted less repetition. You got more legibility, and you can't quite say when the trade happened. Joseph Marie Jacquard may have been living exactly what you just recognized. In the early 1800s, he watched weavers in Lyon, many of them children, spend their days inside an impossible pattern, pulling threads by hand, hour after hour, for cloth they would never wear. He felt something close to grief about it. He wanted to lift the work off their bodies. So he built a loom that read patterns from punched cards, a machine that could weave silk brocade automatically. It was a gift in his mind, a liberation. What actually happened was more complicated. The weavers rioted. They threw his looms into the river. They understood something he did not yet see. That once a pattern lives on a card, the weaver becomes optional. The skill that had taken a lifetime to develop, the judgment in the fingers, the small decisions inside the work, all of it became invisible, then unnecessary, then gone. And the cards themselves became something new, a way of storing instructions outside the human body, a way of running the same pattern perfectly in any factory, in any city, forever. The loom didn't just replace labor, it externalized the thinking that labor had quietly contained. This is the pattern beneath the pattern. When you automate the outside of a task, you almost never automate only the outside. The repetition was hiding something. Judgment, context, small acts of attention, the texture of doing. The moment you lift the repetition off, that hidden layer has to be made explicit. It has to be written down, standardized, made into a rule the machine can follow. And once it's written down, it doesn't belong to you anymore. Notice how this works inside you. You adopt a productivity app to stop forgetting things. Within weeks, your sense of what counts as a real task has reshaped itself around what the app can track. You install a tool to make your work easier to share with your team. Soon, every decision you make has to be legible to that tool, or it doesn't count as work. The freedom was real. The reorganization of your inner life around the tools categories was the price, and nobody quoted it to you up front. This is not a story about technology being bad. Jacquard wasn't a villain, and your apps aren't either. The mechanism is older and quieter than that. It runs like this. Someone sees suffering inside repetition. They want to relieve it. To relieve it, they have to name the pattern precisely. To name it precisely, they have to strip away the parts that resist naming. The judgment, the wobble, the human variation. What's left is a clean specification. The clean specification can be copied infinitely. And once it can be copied infinitely, the people who used to hold the pattern in their bodies become interchangeable with anyone who can feed the machine. The compassion was real. The control was the shape compassion took when it tried to scale. You can feel this in your own work. The job description that captures what you do in 11 bullet points. And somehow, after you read it, the parts of your job that didn't fit on the list start to feel less important, even to you. The dashboard that measures your output, and slowly the things the dashboard can't see become things you stop doing because nobody is counting them. The hiring algorithm built to remove human bias, which encodes a narrower bias more deeply and faster and across more lives at once. And you can feel it in your relationships. The shared calendar that was supposed to reduce friction with a partner, which becomes a quiet ledger of who is doing what. The messaging app that was supposed to keep you connected to a friend, which turns the texture of friendship into response times and read receipts. The repetition you wanted to lift off was carrying something. You only notice what once you've systematized it away. There's a particular grief in this if you let yourself feel it. Not because you were wrong to want easier, you weren't. The repetition really was heavy. The drudgery really did cost something. But the part of you that wanted to be free of it was not the only part of you involved in it. There was also a part that knew things through repetition, that built judgment slowly, in the hands, in the attention, in the small acts of caring about something nobody was measuring. That part doesn't get a clean specification. It can't be punched onto a card. And when the card arrives, that part of you quietly steps aside, because there's no longer a place for it in the work. This is the pattern. You have lived it. Every time you reached for the tool that promised to free you and found, 6 months later, that you had reorganized yourself around its shape. You were inside it. Every time you wondered why the easier life felt thinner, you were inside it. Every time you defended a slow, inefficient way of doing something and couldn't quite say why it mattered, some older part of you is trying to protect what the system couldn't see. You don't have to refuse the tools. You don't have to romanticize the drudgery. You only have to notice now what the repetition was carrying, and decide with open eyes what you're willing to externalize and what you want to keep inside the texture of your own life. The loom is not the enemy.